Greetings and welcome to Zord's Modded Space Program, episode 5. Today we are going to the moon, or at least we're gonna damn well try. First thing, we do what I said we should do last episode. We send up the remaining 2 fuel tankers to refuel the Jupiter 5 mission that is currently in orbit. So that's the first tank. Here comes the second one. These are both night launches because we have to sync with the inclined orbit, and yeah, not very timely, but at least we get them up. We get the mission refueled. This is the 3rd tanker total, and this is the final one. So we have topped off the fuel and we have some left. We are gonna leave the tanker in orbit for now. Now, the mission is refueled. We have done a maneuver node, which I did off screen because it took forever. So now we have to do our burn. And of course this is a larger burn than you're used to. And the craft we are using is larger as well. So it takes a while. Fortunately I have plenty of fuel. So I just transfer over from the forward tank to the rear one where it's being used. And then when I try to separate, the ship becomes possessed. I think it's the Kraken. So I'm trying to figure out what's going on. Did something not decouple correctly? Okay, the map view looks eerie. And well, let's try tracking station. Okay, so the object doesn't have a name. Well, that's safe. Okay, it warped itself a few meters to the side. Okay, well, we'll deal with that later. For now, the possessed stage can remain in orbit as long as we can continue without it. Because we are under a bit of pressure here from time. The window to get to the moon is closing. Even though it's a moon, we still have a bit of a transfer window to match up the inclinations. And the longer you wait, the more delta V you need to compensate for that. So you can practically feel the fuel running through your fingers as you're fighting with the stage or a maneuver node or whatever. So we are doing our plane change correction maneuver thing, and yeah, you can see remote tech's orbital displays freaking out, and well, it's frozen, so it looks like crap, and it's gonna look like this I think for the entire episode. So I apologize, but I didn't want this to happen either. So we're transitioning into the sphere of influence of the moon, and we are going to circularize our orbit. Actually, we want to make it a bit not circular. We want to have the final orbit to have an altitude of no more than 1 million meters. That's 1,000 kilometers. This is because the lander may not work, may not be able to return if the target craft's altitude is above 1 million. So let's see how far the stage can get us. It's not supposed to even have lasted this long, but I'm gonna take all the fuel I can get. Okay, so we have basically fumes left, and we still need to lower our apoaps. Now that we have lowered our peri-aps, we should be fine even without the stage. I mean, the command craft has a nuclear engine and plenty of fuel, a bit over 1 kilometer per second of delta V in the command craft. So we should be fine. We should have way more than we need. So speaking of the nuclear engine, it's time to activate it because it's now our primary engine. So there we go. We have an orbit under 1 million meters around the moon. We're gonna warp to the dark side. We're gonna transfer 2 of our crew into the lander module, and then they are going to land, of course. So let's undock this thing. We back off, and this is going to be the lander. Yeah. So this one's going to use its own engine and its own fuel, fortunately, because we are going to need all of the fuel we can get on this one. You really can feel the limitation of your fuel when you are running it on the limit, as this craft is. Now this one is actually much more efficiently designed, in my mind, in my opinion, than the other crafts you usually design. Because first of all, this is two-stage. This is a two-stage lander, and because you have the stretchable fuel tanks, you can make the fuel tanks whatever size you want. This is exactly what you need to be able to make a efficient two-stage lander design. So you can have a fuel tank which is the correct size. You see the one just below the can? Yeah, that's the second stage fuel tank. We're hopefully not going to use any fuel from that one, but it looks kind of grim. I think we're gonna have to, yeah, we're basically out of the first stage already. But they're only going to be used for landing, so it's not a big deal. As long as we can make it back up into orbit, we are fine. So, okay, need to brake, put this down, 500 meters. Yeah, we're going vertical, good. Let's slow the footage down for the final touchdown, and beautiful. Well, it wasn't hard at all. We have almost all of our fuel left. Okay, let's get Kerbals out and let them do their thing. Surface looks a bit glitchy, but otherwise this is a rather similar experience to landing on the moon, except it's a lot flatter. So you see, it was Dual Die, or whatever his name is. He was the first Kerbal on the moon. Yay, good guy. Okay, as I said, very flat, even with the craters. So yeah, I'm playing sandbox mode, so we don't have any science to do. Let's see if we can get back. That's the question, isn't it? Can we get back? See that we dropped the first stage, and now we just have the second stage. And given the relatively low mass of this craft, if we choose to throttle up the engine, we have a fair acceleration. 5 Gs, 6 Gs. Look, we're almost in orbit. Okay, so now we have to somehow rendezvous with our command pod or whatever. So we set up this, and you saw there was an encounter there, but the game appeared to lose that encounter. So I have to wait 2 days to get a good encounter, and I need to wait because, as you see, I'm running out of fuel, and I want to save every last drop I can possibly manage. Not because I'm really that far on the edge for the return mission, but because I don't want to waste fuel. It feels a lot more important now that we're running with this increased difficulty. Anyway, we do eventually get back. The Kerbals get back into the relative comfort of the command pod, and we start planning the return to Earth. So we're gonna need a couple of 100 meters per second in that direction, and then we're going to go. Now I'm gonna keep the lander and use its fuel for the first burst because, well, we have a bit of fuel left and it's lower delta V, lower specific impulse of this engine, so we can steal the last bit of fuel. And now we're gonna be a bit wasteful with the RCS here because we don't need a lot of RCS. There's gonna be no more dockings, and if there is, well, I haven't planned them. So we use our nuclear engine now for basically the first time. Something that the Apollo mission obviously did not do. But I'm gonna take on the additional challenge of disposing of this nuclear material in a way that does not involve smashing it into Kirby's atmosphere, or Earth for that matter. So as you just saw, I transferred some monopropellant from the tanks on the bottom of the craft to the command pod, which can hold monopropellant for some reason. So I'm gonna store monopropellant in the command pod and use this to not throw nuclear engines on people on the planet. And you're gonna see how, but I think you can imagine. So the first thing we do is we want to slow down our approach. We're nearing the planet with almost 10 kilometers per second. And I think it would be a shame not to use any of our fuel to reduce the stress that's going to be caused on the vessel with re-entry. So we have spent all our fuel, all our liquid methane, and we go out to our apoapsis, and now we use the onboard monopropellant to lower our periapsis. And hopefully we're gonna get it into the atmosphere so that we can just aerobrake and land. So let's see. We used half of the delta V, but oh no, this isn't gonna work. We're way too low on monopropellant. Let's see how far we can go. And yeah, 120 kilometers. Okay, so we just need a bit more, 20 kilometers more. And we can actually do this by getting out and push. And I'm gonna fast forward for most of this because this was really boring. And kind of shameful actually. Having such a meticulously planned and designed mission and falling on the finish line. Yeah, no, not good. But we are aerobraking. We have a periapsis of 85 kilometers or so, and we apparently already passed it. Okay, so a few aerobrakings and a bit more pushing later, we have a stable low periapsis. This is probably gonna be our last aerobraking, or well, it's definitely gonna be our last aerobraking because last time we got into this low orbit. Yeah, okay, we're basically captured now. So for now we can just sit and enjoy the fireworks. And while we're enjoying our light show and hoping that our Kerbals doesn't burn in the atmosphere, we can take a minute to think about what we're gonna do next. And I want to ask you, the viewer, what do you think I should do? Should I start building a space station with the realistic physics? Or should I try interplanetary missions? Because I want to know, I'm having a hard time making up my mind. But that's the worst of the re-entry. We are cooling down. And from here on it's basically a free ride. There goes the parachute, we're landing on the night side, of course, because, you know, that's apparently how we do things here. But the Kerbals are home, they are safe. I thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again next time. Bye!